But there are other places in the hotel that people are curious about too. Housekeeping, maintenance, things like that. I mean, is that in consideration in any way? I mean, I feel like the front desk has so many variables because it's so heavily bent to guest interaction. But is there an opportunity for housekeeping work, but things like that?
Actually, there was a great example. You brought up Disney earlier, and it was one of a business case I read a long time ago, which is essentially that Disney spent more time training their service staff than their information desk people, because people felt more comfortable approaching one of their service and maintenance staff for information than going and standing in line at the information desk. And so the question is, who can predict where a guest engagement will happen?
That's true.
How many times if I'm walking through a lobby or walking through a hallway and I'll ask a question, and that person there is of tremendous value to me, right? So that's why I say I think the answer is these use cases will grow. I think there are absolute places where there will be both the cost benefit to that, as well as there's a lot of guest value to it. But I think this is a place where we're going to have to tread very lightly around how do we make sure that we don't end up investing to disappoint the guest.
So I'm glad, I want to echo your comments and kind of go on top of them. I hope I'll be retired before we have hospitality without people.
Yeah.
I can't reconcile that growing up. You learn hospitality, it's woven into the fabric of your being, and I just don't think, you said it very well, you just can't replicate the touch and the feel that goes with the discernment that has to go with what's going on at that situation, whether it's a wedding happening or a quiet moment between a husband and wife that want a glass of wine on the patio and the patio's closed, but we make the decision to put them on the patio. I just don't want to, I just can't reconcile hospitality without people and the human touch. And so for me, if you can take and free up time for my hospitality staff to engage with the people by having the Internet of Things tell me when the clock needs to be updated in the room or when the water pressure's down in the room, and I can send all that through technology to my chief engineer, and we can quickly assign people to handle those things and move through the processes, then that's great, because guess what? We have more time to engage with the guests, which is what hospitality really about.
And I think the best technology, if you look at it, is our kind of seamless, behind the scenes, hidden, right? More subtle in how they're exposed to people. So like having overt robots I don't think is the answer. It's about having, for like your example there of the umbrellas. I mean, it's like you have a system that's tracking local weather patterns, and I've predicted that there's going to be rain, so let's make sure the umbrellas are, send an alert to the front desk to have umbrellas ready there. Something like that. That's kind of, it's behind the scenes and enhancing the guest experience in a very major difference from what it used to be.
I think opportunities to allow our employees to better service the guests are going to reap a lot more rewards than trying to remove that personal touch. Again, there may be use cases where these are very easy patterns to fulfill, and therefore technology can supply them. But we're obviously looking for how do we empower the Marriott associates on property to provide the best service they can, and that seems like that's just a no regrets type investment to make sure that we're doing what we can to service the guest.
Okay. So can we talk just a little bit about some ways that hotels are future-proofing themselves against technology developments coming down the line? Nothing?
I don't think fiber is one way.
Yeah.
Running fiber now, because fiber is imminently expandable for families.
Sure.
So running fiber now, and it's getting more cost effective, and I think that's where the new builds are going to be ahead of us. They're going to be able to ramp up faster. If you have an older box that you're going to struggle with going back and recabling. So fiber, to me, is one way where you can put 8 ports in a room, or you can run 100 megabits to a room. That's going to put you out ahead, that kind of thing. But when we're talking about, as you said, straight up technology, that question, I don't know how to answer that question.
Let me ask it back to you. How you for a new iPhone, how are you future proofing yourself that in 2 years you won't be replacing it?
Oh, 1 year.
1 year.
Maybe 1 year.
That's very optimistic.
So I think from a brand perspective, there's no way to future proof. That term doesn't exist. But their only guarantee is that there will be change. So you future-proof yourself by making sure that the investments you're making, the people you're hiring are kind of accustomed to deal with that change, right? So on the services side, and this is again another trend I'm sure you're following, is building like a services layer, a web web services, RESTful services layers inside our organization to insulate some of the legacy systems from newer technologies. I think that's a trend we are seeing to allow. It's not future. It helps in that direction. So it allows you to plug in new technologies on the front ends while not having to replace legacy systems. So it allows you to kind of evolve the brand. Of course, at some point, even the legacy systems will change, but it allows you to evolve and kind of have that mindset of constant change. I think that's kind of more the need.
Yeah, some of the open source stuff, investing in open source and knowing that not to sign a 10-year contract with anyone is all. Shorter, terms because things are going to change. It's impossible to future-proof. There's no such thing. I feel.
Hire millennials and let them ask you why things are the way they are at your corporate offices or your hotels. I mean, they come in and why is this like this? Why doesn't this work well? You talk about future-proofing, it's those ideas, it's that next generation that question everything that we think is, this is great, my internet's fast, this is terrible internet, is what they'll tell you. Or, we need 3 monitors because we got to monitor our data feeds and we got to monitor our social media. And it's just a different world. So you've got to be always on the front edge of, again, people too, bringing in bright people that know what's trending. There's a topic for you in the next generation, because they really challenge the norms that we're used to. That if you've been around a while, they really do challenge you, and they're not afraid to challenge you either, which is what I like. Invest in people. You can future-proof that way, I think.
And you're really only trying to manage the amount of the change that you have to make down there. I think the fiber is a great example of that, right? Because you put that infrastructure in place, and the technology is still evolving at the endpoints to allow you to make more and more better use of it.
Right.
But I can't tell you how many times we have conversations where, even on a new build, somebody thinks that's an opportunity to save some money by not making that investment, and that's a bad thing.
So how well of a job is technology doing right now at helping hotels save energy? And how has that affected operations in that way?
There's a tremendous amount of benefit to technology. I mean, we just installed in an older hotel down in Savannah, Georgia, a water monitoring system, the EcoFlow system that can monitor the demand on the systems. And instead of traditional boiler systems where you watch the temperature and keep it heated, it reduces temperature, it reduces demand, it reduces flow to the rooms, it moves flow around the buildings, and we're seeing 20 to 30% reduction in water costs. So technology is a huge contributor. And air systems, you mentioned air systems, lighting systems, really automatic lighting, moving when people move around the building. Honestly, also, electricity is gauged on your demand and your load. So there's technology now that won't allow your kitchen equipment to start at the same time to create that huge load point on your hotels. Once you reduce that load point, you reduce your monthly bills, which is huge over the space of a year. So there's a ton of technology, and I'm really excited about the Internet of Things. I just want everything to be connected so we can see it all on a screen and just watch it all happen. But as we do that, we're going to be able to drive efficiencies, especially in energy.
How about electric vehicle charging stations? Is that a priority in any way right now, or is it still kind of down the line?
I think, again, there's a need being generated, right? I think, again, there's a lot of people who are, it's not a huge percentage of the industry yet, but it's growing. And again, there's more and more electric vehicles coming onto the road. So I think, again, this is an eventuality. It's just a matter of time. When we hit a tipping point where, and again, obviously being in the travel and hospitality industry, people are going to be taking trips across country and are going to be looking to charge when their battery life is done. So, we're seeing that at our headquarters. We're expanding the amount of battery ports, for charging stations in our parking areas because it was very interesting to see, because ultimately we had a number of them and the demand was higher than the number. So people were actually doing car space sharing, where at lunchtime people would go out and switch their cars around so somebody could charge in the morning and somebody could charge in the afternoon. And we're starting to greatly expand those opportunities within our headquarters. I think there will be entrepreneurs that will come up, are going to continue to evolve the business model around the charging stations. I think people are going to figure it out around how to essentially create a cost benefit around doing this. Services will come online, and 5 years from now, this won't be a question.
Yeah,
There's several vendors in the market who will provide provide a effective way to essentially leverage and monetize that parking space in a way that we don't today.
Yeah, and airports is the same way. When I go to an airport, I know if it's been renovated or not. Either everyone's plugged in, charging, and there's a, Apple Store style bench. Everyone's working on there. Oh, I know they're renovated. I don't need to read when was the last time an upgrade was done. But when I go into sections of O'Hare, dark alleyways, and everyone's sitting in a corner huddled around, the bathroom, and they're like, oh, nobody has updated it because there's no power station there. And that's why all the new, getting into retail, Whole Foods, something you're at a new or an old Whole Foods, and how you find out is they have charging stations now. So this was a new one because it's part of their standard operating procedure now. And like you said, that's coming in another couple of years, won't be a question.
And there's some younger, like the up and coming lifestyle brands that are all in the growth phases that already have made that connection and provide that. So as they're building and developing, they're just adding more places, but they kind of put themselves in a position to be connected to it. So the older brands that are more established will have to probably, and I'm sure something will come along that makes it advantageous for a lot of hotels to be able to add that feature.
Here's the interesting
within the
thing.
industry.
We just put 2 stations in a roadside Holiday Inn in Pennsylvania because the owner of that hotel is passionate about it. And I thought, I don't know. I've never been there once. They're not cars parked there.
Oh.
So that answers the question, I think.
So it's not just California, right?
No.
It's more than that.
No, and listen, it's a driver of business. We have people that now say, I stay there because of. So, because they're going along the 83 corridor or the, it's just, they're always using it. When was the last time you went to BWI and saw the charging, they're never empty, they're always full.
Yeah.
So I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
So sort of how the majority of consumers own a smartphone, and many hotels are now investing in smart TVs if they don't already have them. So is there sort of uniformity across chain scales in terms of technology now, or how do you see that?
It really doesn't, I don't get to take advantage of that per se, just because, we deal with almost 50 different brands. So.
You don't get to pick and choose, yeah.
No, but they all have they have different levels that you're adapting to. I think we use the information to help our independent hotels because they don't have that structure. So if you watch what's going on and trending, you can offer the assistance to those independent properties so they stay current and not get stuck in something that becomes outdated because of that vertical growth that we've been talking about.
I think one of the challenges that we have within the trying to embrace that consumer electronic space is that there are still several ecosystems out there that frankly don't play well together. And so as we look at, how do we essentially provide a ubiquitous service so that a guest can do this? The reality is, if they come in with this ecosystem of devices or that ecosystem of devices, the set of capabilities is different. Frankly, they don't conform to open standards or cross-license their technologies. And so too often we have to make a choice around, we support either this ecosystem or that ecosystem. And I think we will see real scale at this when we start seeing some convergence around. There's a common set of capabilities that spans those ecosystems so that we can basically supply them once, and then it serves, regardless of what device type you have coming in, that it will work. And I think that it seems difficult to believe that won't happen at some point, just because, again, I think enough consumers are saying it's a problem. You may standardize your house on an ecosystem, but as soon as you leave your house, you start feeling friction around the fact that not everybody's in the same place that you are.
Well, internally, you also have layers of systems that have overlays to make them work into a new environment that makes another one work, and you end up with associates that have to deal with multiple access points to a lot of data that can slow things. To me, it can slow things down because you're trying to adapt an old legacy system to today's technology, because you can't upgrade the whole legacy system at this point. So you've got 3 different things interfacing, and you could lose connection, and that could really throw you off. So you have to continue to look at the foundation of what's going on behind the scenes with all of that.
And I think that's a huge frustration for owners and managers, which is, okay, we'd like to provide this capability, and there are 3 different technologies you have to implement to do it. That creates cost, that creates friction, that creates support and maintenance issues,
Connectivity issues.
Absolutely. So we those are challenges that we are continuing to seek to overcome. But I think that's, again, it's an industry thing from a technology standpoint around the major players out there are choosing to compete rather than cooperate. And frankly, the consumer is suffering from that.
Comes down to plug and play to me. We're so busy now. I bought a wireless printer 2 weekends ago and brought it in my house, and it was the easiest thing I've ever done. I plugged it in, and my network recognized it, and I put it on my phone, and my wife was so happy she could print from her iPad, and my 14-year-old daughter could print from her phone, from her room. It was plug and play, but I'll tell you, we buy a new TV at a hotel nowadays, we can't get it to talk to the internet, and we can't get it to talk to the PMS system, and we can't get it to talk to the Aloha. It's just if somebody can ever do plug and play for me, I'm going to buy all of it.
It's back to the same. Where has the investment gone in that? It's consumerization, right?
Right.
So the investment has gone in that. A hotel is a different animal. There's not enough scale here. All the major brands have their own systems, number one. You look at the vendors in our space, they're all catered to the independent hotels. They're not catered to brands. I mean, they're just not. I mean, there are very few. I mean, I'm not general statement, but that's the point. I mean, the investment has gone into that because of that scale. And I think in here, I think my view is from the hotel point of view, it's kind of plug and play. The same answer, but for me, it's plug and play of my own systems, within my own systems and within technology like Rainmaker. So for me, right now, the way I see us deploying technology is I don't want a front end from any system. I just want it as a service. And I assemble all of these services together and create my own experience, like to the point of 3 apps for the front end, so between the website, between the PMS, between our RMS, all of that, right? So if I had all of those as a service, and I plug and play and deliver a consistent user experience, mobile-enabled experience to whether it's my guest or my front desk or whoever it is, that's the way I see us, gravitating towards. And I think most mobile-first, service-enabled, big data analytics, UI design, these are kind of, everyone's getting there in terms of the brands. I think that's happening at that level. Behind the scenes, of course, everyone still has their other technologies, but we're trying to insulate that from what we're trying to deliver.
What printer is that again? I want to write down.
That's a lot. It was great.
Please email me the name of the printer.
I have
It's
the
not-
same. It's an HP.
No, I'm just kidding.
It was an HP.
Printers are not easy. At one point, it will disappoint you. I'm going to give you a heads up. Let me warn you that it's coming. It's inevitable with a printer.
But think about this. I was coming down here today and I wanted to print out my notes, and I was, getting ready, and I was in the upstairs in the bathroom shaving or whatever, and I grabbed my phone, pulled up the email, hit the PDF, and hit print, and it was waiting downstairs. I mean, that's what I want to experience at a hotel room.
Sure.
That's what our guests are kind
Connectivity.
of expecting. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ease of connectivity.
And integrations are really important, and that's something that, first of all, they're extremely painful. Takes a lot of engineering efforts. We, as a company, we invest huge. It's not easy to get on with the PMS vendors, and some of the systems are really old.
Yeah.
But we have integrations with everyone, because if we don't integrate, nobody wants to look at another dashboard.
Yeah,
So
because
we're not-
PMS vendors are developing the whole product, right? Again,
Yeah.
like I keep saying, it's for the. So I buy a PMS, it doesn't have my loyalty platform in there, right? So they've not thought about that.
Yeah.
So what they've not thought about is delivering. So I don't want to ever develop the folio management pieces of the PMS, the room allocate. I don't want to develop that. I just want to consume it
Out of the
as
box.
a service.
Exactly.
I don't even want the UI.
Exactly.
I just want to consume it and then build my own UI ahead of it. I think that's how I see the PMS vendors.
I had a great quote once that said, "You know what generation somebody is from if they know how to install a printer." Because there was a certain generation that was there before the convergence of hardware and software. So if you know what an LPT port is and you know how to install printer drivers from a floppy, you know exactly what generation they're from.
Yeah.
Well, we're running short on time, so I'd like to close with a more speculative question. I'd like to go around the room, and if everyone can share their thoughts on maybe what the guest room will look like in 10 years, or if cost was not a limiting factor, what would you invest in right now to put in your hotel's technology? So if you want, we can start with you.
Absolutely. I think again, as we've seen this, right, the look and feel of the guest rooms is essentially starting to model themselves based on consumer needs, as opposed to, I think, so the furniture is evolving to things that, let's be as Spartan and spare, but absolutely provide the needs of the guest, right? Let's not put more in than that's necessary. So I think, again, the layouts of the rooms, the furniture in the rooms, the function of the space is already evolving, and we see that with some of the new hotels, and I think this is probably true across brands, is there's some really innovative designs coming out. But I think specifically in the technology of the rooms, I think to the earlier point, there's no end at this point of investment in the technology in the rooms. I think the answer is it is going to continue to evolve. The wireless spectrum is going to continue to evolve, around how do we provide, strong signal into these hotels. Some of these hotels are not built to have the best signal permeating every single, square foot of that space. So I think that's going to continue to evolve. The entertainment options are going to continue to evolve, right? I think how the rooms are controlled are there. I absolutely would see again, hopefully again, whether the features actually grow dramatically is probably less clear, but the intuitive nature of the integration of that technology, I think, is going to get a lot easier. Today, people too often have to engage with us to come to our technology, and we want to essentially come to their technology and integrate with them how they would like to choose to integrate with us, as opposed to come use my interface. And so I think that's going to evolve. I think that's really where the main innovation is going to happen, is in the ease and intuitiveness around the use of technology and the integration across the spectrum. And I think that's going to be the major innovation and the major experience change over the next 5 years.
So one way to answer the question, look back to 2006, 10 years ago, right? And look at hotels today. So by and large, there's not much difference. I agree with the newer properties, obviously. There's the investment cycle. So change all the furniture, the bed sets, all of that. I mean, there's investment there. So it's not magically in 10 years you'll have spaceship-like rooms all over the place, right? So that's not going to happen. So, but I definitely see a more modern look in terms of the look and feel of the furniture, and there'll still be a bed. Maybe there's an adjustable bed, with a mattress, like the sleep number type. I haven't seen that at least I'm not aware. I think kind of wonder why that's not been done. I think there'll be automation, but I think it will be subtle, right? It won't be over the top. I think awesome Wi-Fi will be definitely kind of a given. On entertainment, I kind of have some thoughts around that. So at home, you're used to, people have home theaters, your larger TVs, you have good sound is important. In hotels, you cannot get that experience because it's a hotel, kind of loud. We have controls on TV volumes and such. And I've been looking around for people who provide hotels providing headsets. People carry their headsets. So I think getting like a virtual reality kind of experience at a hotel, with headsets, consuming your content, whether it's the hotel's content or your own content, I think that's something like that needs to happen, and I think will happen in 10 years. Things like that will be there to give you a better entertainment experience, but it's different because you can't just have big, loud volume and disturbing, other guests. And I think food, healthier choices, that's a trend that's happening. I think the food will change in hotels, hopefully. But I think subtle changes of that nature is what I see happening.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I think from the ops side, I would love to see an environment where everything's connected: housekeeping, carts, vacuums. For efficiency standpoint, not only for maintenance, but for making sure that we're moving at the right pace, and that housekeeping carts would be notified when the next guest on their list checks out, so that you're not knocking anymore. No more knocking. You're just moving to the next available room, and that we're just increasing the efficiency to be able to provide more service. I would like to see, and I've heard of almost like where induction cooking has come from, any flat service in your guest room would charge your electronic devices. And so these are things that are being worked on now. I just read about it this morning, as a matter of fact, where you can throw your phone on your desk and it'll charge it, or your laptop and it'll charge it. So, and we all know the airport problem, right? You walk around and around and around looking for a charger. If every flat service was a charging station, think about that. And then honestly, last thing I'll say is plug and play. I want to be able to walk into my guest room, slide my phone open with my key on it, and it says, would you like to turn the TV on? Yes. Would you like to listen to all from my phone? No more remotes, no more anything. It's all location based. Once you're inside that guest room, it's mobile. It's the whole experience is seamless.
I would say the charging is one of the big things, and then I'm not sure if the smart TV thing is going to be around, because people have their own devices, and I feel you should be able to just project whatever you have, your own subscription, right? Apple or Netflix or whatever you have. When you get in a hotel room, you will probably be able to sync it not to a defined TV. It could probably be an entire window or a projection or something a little bit less cluttery. So cleaner rooms, open spaces, and then you bring your own content to the party, right? You bring your own whatever you have, whatever you're doing. So you either slide up your more like I'm thinking more like the movie with Tom Cruise. Yeah, I'm thinking more about you just pull you pull content off of your iPad onto the window, and the window goes dark, and you can see your movie. So something like that. That's my, at least I hope so. So.
I once heard a futurist say that 80% of the technology that we'll use on a daily basis 10 years from now hasn't even been invented.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, taking to your point, go back 06. Certainly the iPad wasn't here. Might not even have the first generation of iPhone. Yet that's the direction we're going. So these threads, I think we've talked a lot about the patterns of where we're going in that regard. And I think it is about consumerization. It's about plug and play. It's about allowing you to take what you experience in your home and have accessibility to that in your hotel room, because the technology is taken, it's not in your face, it's a little more covert and allows you to operate in that regard.
And a lot of great things have been said, but I think from a design standpoint, you see smarter design, it's fresh, contemporary, but it seems like if you're going to have color, it's been put in places that are much easier to take out, where you have longer lifespans, hopefully, in your case goods and carpet selections. The wear and tear would come, but then it's smartly being designed today. It feels a lot. I think that has some timeless design that's being developed with the kind of materials they use. And I think a TV should not be called a TV, it should be called a personal device. And that down the road, you just look at it as an extension of almost like emulating what people use things for at home, and actually just kind of embracing it and making it that instead of it being a TV. Because I think it's the linchpin for a lot of things that can be done when you walk in the door with your mobile device, and you should be able to just throw it up on the screen, or if you want to sit on, use your laptop but see the big screen and toggle in and out of what services. That's what a hotel room should be, so you're comfortable.
All right, well, that concludes Hotel Management's 2016 Technology Roundtable. I'd like to thank everyone for participating, and look forward to putting this up online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.